Lord Snowdon has been taking photographs of the rich and the celebrated and the royal for more than 50 years. A contributing photographer for Vanity Fair magazine, his subjects range from Marlene Dietrich and the mentally ill to Mikhail Baryshnikov and the British royal family. Although Snowdon maintains that photography is not art, over 180 of his works can currently be seen in a retrospective at the Yale Center for British Art. I am pleased to have him back on this program, having admired his photograph for a long, long time. Let me start with this. What is it you want to be known for? What is it that you care most about beyond family?
I'm not a stayer, really. I like change.
Yeah.
I like designing. I got enormous pleasure out of designing the aviary at the London Zoo in 1963. And that's still standing, and it's now a listed building, which is quite nice.
Yes.
I hope in a small way I've helped with designing wheelchairs for disabled people and fighting for equal rights and opportunities. Then there's photography. So I jump from one thing to another.
Yeah.
And I don't really have a favourite. I just do like change.
From one
thing to the other.
One thing to
and
the
one
other.
leads on to another. I mean, when you very kindly introduced me, you left out, to me, an important part of the things I was trying to do, which is pictures of social problems. Rather.
The reason for my question is just that, to get to that. So, good point. And my impression is that's more challenging for you than celebrated.
Of course.
Portraits.
Yes, absolutely. But not. I said in a book I did on London in 1958. I think photographs should be simple, make people react, to laugh, to cry, but not to wince, I hope. Now, those photographs of social problems mustn't be those taken by voyeurs, nor must they be taken by somebody who's trying to be a do-gooder. Mm-hmm. They're just showing, hopefully with a certain amount of love and understanding, what's going on in the world. In the exhibition, I haven't seen it yet, I'm going there tomorrow.
The one at Yale.
What?
The one at Yale.
Yes, but it was done at the National Portrait Gallery.
Right.
And there I made the end room social problems. I painted black and had the photographs were quite small, and no music, not to stare, but to make people realize how lucky they are who are going round. I was told not to include them because they were too depressing, but they're not depressing. I think it would be a very lightweight exhibition if you didn't include those kind of photographs. Much more important than
Where do you think your instinct to do that comes from?
Hard to say, really. You know how one thing grows out of another. I mean, like one of the great war photographers called Don McCullin.
Yes.
And he's a marvelous photographer. And I think it led from having been around quite a lot of hospitals and having worked on the Sunday Times doing social problems. That grew more and more into mental hospitals. And my grandfather was a doctor to do with lunacy, as it was then called. I didn't know where it came from.
Yeah, but all those things whetted your curiosity.
Yes. I think you never know where things come from.
Yeah.
They just happen.
And design?
Oh, design, because I come from a background I'm very proud of, which is still continuing now with David.
Yes, he designed furniture.
But before that, my great-grandfather was the political cartoonist on Punch magazine in England in the 1870s. Another great uncle called Alfred Messel was a German architect. So I'm a hodgepodge. But they were all they were nearly all in the applied arts. My uncle Oliver Messel was arguably the greatest stage designer in the 20s and 30s. My eldest daughter is now painting. So she's the only person in the real fine arts. We're all applied arts.
Yes.
And photography is, to me, rock bottom. And
why is that?
Well, because I think that
I mean, you know, when people say that, I mean, everybody's saying, you know, you're going exactly against the grain. As photography gains momentum, as it gains more momentum, and I mean, if you go to galleries in the lower part of Manhattan, you'll see more photography than you've ever seen before. I mean, it's status, it's growth, it's penetration.
And they're selling prints here, and for a huge amount of money. And I'm against that too, because...
Well, why are you against... Go ahead.
Because...
Why isn't it art to be able to see? Because what makes painting is what you see in your head and see in your eye.
I know, but...
that's where it starts, at least.
But people of my generation took photographs because they drew badly.
There you go.
It's quicker and easier.
Yeah, right. I hear you. No, I know. I understand that. But that explains everything.
And it's got too highfalutin. Yeah. You know, it's considered in the fine arts, in the Royal College of Art, things like that.
Right.
Bring it down a bit.
All right, let's look at the photograph. Show me the first one, please. This is a great story here. Can you tell me the story here? Yeah. This is Marlene Dietrich. There she is.
Yes.
With smoke on the right.
Well, that I did in about 1957, I think.
Yeah, 1955.
55,
yeah. I have the book in front of me, that's why I know.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, to end up with that one, she looked at them. She looked at all the contacts, very, very small. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And she said, "Dear boy, I like this one, but I like the smoke from that one." And so I said, "Miss Dietrich, it's frightfully difficult to do that. You know." She said, "No, it isn't.
Yeah.
You print in the photograph I like, all right? You put the paper in the drawer, which is light-proof. Then you put in the one with the smoke that I like, and you do that on top of it. Now, wrong along, undo that." And of course, she was dead right.
She was dead right.
Yes.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Wonderful. Great technician.
Yeah. The next one is...
It was all long before computers.
Yeah, exactly. Next one is 19... Oh, look at this. This is Prince Charles and Princess Anne at the Picture Gallery at Buckingham Palace in 57.
That's 57.
Now, someone would say that that's just, it's wonderfully, you know, it's so perfectly framed.
Well, it's just a very simple thing of two children sitting on the floor.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I won't get excited.
The one on the opposite page.
The opposite page, that shows the Queen and Prince Philip looking down at Prince Charles and Princess Anne, correct?
Yes.
Right.
But what I quite often used to draw.
This is 57.
I used to draw beforehand what it was going to be like and then submit it, you see, for approval. And what in that photograph was going to be, they were going to be fishing.
Yeah.
And they had caught a trout out of the stream, which is at Buckingham Palace. And the Queen and Prince Philip were proudly looking on at their first catch of the trout. See. On the morning of the day, there was a wonderful lady called Mrs. Peabody who looked after me in Pimlico Road, just down by David's shop. And I opened the tray, and she said, "Well, I thought you needed building up this morning, Mr. Tony." And there she'd cooked the trout, you see, which is why they're reading the book.
Ah, it's a great story. All right, let's take a look. The next one is, that's a Crufts Dog Show in Olympia in 1958.
Yes. Well, again, what I liked there was there's a kind of campness of the man with the little horrid little dog.
Yes.
And the jealousy of the other, the runner-up, and the old ladies in the background. It was just wandering round.
The jealousy of her expression. Her expression is just...
Have you ever been to Crufts or not?
No.
Oh, you should go.
Now we can see Alex Guinness. Best in show, I think. Alex Guinness, Hotel Paradiso.
Well, that was during a rehearsal, and I bleached the eyes out to make them whiter, yes.
Oh, I see.
And you see, in those days, nearly all stills were very, very small outside the theatre. They were 8 by 6 inches. And I wanted to have big exhibitions of photographs, partly out of conceit, but mainly to get people off the buses to go and buy a ticket. That was my job.
Yes.
And I also was working very closely with Peter Brook and Peter Hall. Right. All directors were then called Peter, I don't know why.
I know. And, Peter Hall, Peter Brook, yeah, right.
And Peter Grenville. Right. But I started by taking photographs during rehearsal, which they loved because it took up less time. Before that, one used to go down in a motor car to Bournemouth. It was always seemingly in Bournemouth. To have a whole day taking photographs with a great large plate camera. Everything was completely false and lit. So I tried to make for more realism. It was the same time as as Brendan Byrne and brutalism that was coming in. And so I was doing it in a reportage kind of way.
All right, let me see. The next one is Sir Laurence Olivier from The Entertainer, 1957. Most of these, look at that. Anything did you do anything to this in terms of...
He was wonderful to work for. And
why?
Well, you always find the great people, like here in Alec Guinness, they're never late, always on time.
Yeah.
They always seemingly have enough time for you, and however insignificant you may be. And immense charm, of course.
Yeah.
Now, those teeth were blacked out, but he put black paint down the centre.
Right.
I had total admiration for him.
The next one is Charlie Chaplin. Look at this. This was 1966.
Yeah, it was quite a bit later. That was over lunch. And
you just pulled out a camera and started snapping?
Yes, well, I had one with me. It was on the table, I think. But after lunch, he said, would I like to see a film of his?
Yeah.
And I thought, my God, think of just seeing a film, sitting next to Charlie Chaplin, seeing one of the great films. So we went into the drawing room and sat down, and he was working a projector, a very small, old-fashioned one. And the film was of he and Una, his wife, doing on a safari, and it lasted for 4 hours. It was the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life.
Sorry you asked. Accepted. All right, next is Princess Margaret, 1967.
That's...
is this your favorite photograph of her or not?
I do like it, but I put it opposite Baryshnikov because she's president of the Royal Ballet.
Yes.
And knows arguably more about the ballet than almost anybody I know.
Yeah.
And this is seldom recorded, really. Her knowledge is immense, and love of the ballet. And it was after when Rudolf Nureyev came, and he used to come and feed up with us and have steak, and then all dancers eat like horses, you know. And then Baryshnikov was much, much later. Yeah. But
this photograph is 77.
Rudolf was very naughty, always behaved appallingly,
I've heard
in a lovable way.
Yeah.
And always late. The only time he was on time was when I was photographing Baryshnikov, and he came behind.
He came behind to create
no, just
trouble.
To get in the picture.
Yeah. Okay, let's see the next one after there is Baryshnikov. Since we've been talking about Nureyev, there he is. I'm going to show Nureyev here
that's the one
profile first, and then we'll show that. You know, there's the profile.
That's a very early one.
This is 1963, right?
That's when he came over.
Yeah. And then there he is with Margot Fontaine.
When they did the Swan Lake in Vienna.
In 1965.
Yes. Yeah. And they were marvellous together. And sometimes one should never praise just Rudolf. It was so much also Margot.
Yes. Yes. Well said. Does Princess Margaret think that Nureyev is the greatest dancer she ever knew? You think?
Never said.
Okay, now we take a look at some children under stress. This is for the... I'm sorry?
No, I mean, this is questionable whether these pictures should be in the book. I think it's all right in the exhibition, but I worry about them being in a...
Because it trivializes them because it's among celebrity or something else?
All of those things. I think it's very hard to have suddenly to change from a lightweight picture to total realism. I think it's all right in the exhibition.
I think it's okay in the book too, because it shows the commonality here. The common denominator is you.
Well, some of the things I've tried.
The same eye that took those pictures took these pictures.
Yes, but it's trying to show sometimes the love relationship between a nurse and a patient, which is very important.
Yeah. Just look at that.
And the toughness.
Look at our hands there. Yeah.
That was a very troubled boy.
Okay, the next one is... What's the next picture? Oh.
That's...
Mental Hospital Sunday Times Magazine, 1968.
Well, you see, what was wonderful about the Sunday Times was they gave me the opportunity to do these kind of serious photographs because we didn't have to sell on the newsstand.
Right.
So before that, these problems had just been swept under the mat.
Now, was Harry Evans the editor then? Who was the editor?
Well, Harry Evans was as well afterwards.
Okay.
He was a wonderful colonel. What is he going to...
Here's that was just great. Listen.
This one.
Which one?
Well, where were you?
Well, I was looking at the one on the ocean front.
Oh,
Here.
that one.
That
was somebody who was deaf and dumb.
Yeah.
And nobody had spoken to him for 3 years.
3 years? Look at this.
And as luck would have it, I do speak sign language. And so I went up and spoke to him. Nobody had talked to him at all.
Why did you learn sign language?
For a very good reason that it was during the war, and we weren't allowed to talk after the lights were out. So we all learned sign language.
All right. Next one is going back to more celebrated Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, in 1997.
Yes,
Wow.
well, there what I wanted to do was, it's a rather pretty chair, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's a great chair.
And sort of chinoiserie. And I have photographed her quite a few times, and she's one of the most wonderful people in the world. But I wanted to do that one in a hat that she uses for fishing.
Yes.
And is typical of her. And not many people see her like that.
Now, where was this photographed?
That was done down at her home in the country.
And the next is, let's take a look at the next one. Princess of Wales in 1991. Even there, I mean, that's a beautiful photograph.
Well, that one was quite interesting because I was accused of being awfully stuffy, and really photographs were too uptight. And
yeah.
The reason for that was because they were for general release, and they had to be. But that was one at the end of the sitting, and I wet her hair, and I never actually took it on film. It was done. Do you know what I mean by Polaroid?
Oh, sure.
It was done on a Polaroid, and it got in. It just got filed in a scrapbook, and never got used. And I sort of picked it out, or somebody said, "Oh, that one's rather nice and quite alive," and so I used that one.
She's a beautiful woman.
It was wonderful.
Wonderful.
Great loss.
Yeah. And then the heirs. That's Harry on the left, isn't it? No, that's Prince William on the left, and Harry is sitting in the chair.
Yeah. And then very formal, that one. You see, that was a chair that...
Have you seen them recently?
I photographed them earlier this year.
For private, public?
For publication, yes.
Yeah. And Helen Mirren on the right.
Yes, I was trying to make...
Say it.
Greer rather sort of more feminine. It was done for Vogue. And Helen Mirren, she's awfully keen about her bosom, isn't she?
It's hard to, she looks more like Helen Mirren in the mirror than she does here. Because there's something about it. I wouldn't, if I just saw that, I wouldn't necessarily know that's Helen Mirren. If I saw that, I would say Helen Mirren.
Well, that was just done in my small dressing room, which is tiny.
Oh, my God.
Well,
this is Emma Thompson. Take a look at this.
And it's that old rip-off of what, we haven't got...
It's old rip-off of what?
Of Velasquez.
Is that? Oh, yes.
And in the Velasquez, there's a Cupid there. Right. And I saw a cutting the other day saying that it was a cheat because you couldn't actually paint somebody's head in a looking glass without getting it yourself in the picture, which is absolute nonsense. I mean, I had the camera on a tripod here, and you just get it so that you just get her head.
Wow. Great. How long did it take you to do that? I hope 2 days.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was a morning, I think. It was. I borrowed the chaise longue, which was my uncle's, and I'd given it to David, and so he had to get it out of his flat. He, at the time, had an outside iron staircase.
All right, I'm going to show the Kate Hepburn, but the last one. Well, let's show the Kate Hepburn, then we'll show you the last one. Here. Is that great or not? That's her, isn't it?
That was done in New York.
Yeah.
And
but that's the way she dresses, isn't it? That's not something you ask her to put on.
That's entirely her.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful. She was being filmed by the BBC just immediately after that. And
was she cooperative? Was she?
Oh yes, no, she was wonderful. But the person from the BBC said, "Do tell me, what is star quality?" And she said, "I don't know what star quality is, but I sure got it."
She was right.
She did right.
Dead right. And so do these two. Take a look at this last picture. Richard Harris and Peter O'Toole at the Dorchester 6 years ago in 1995.
in the Oliver Messel Suite, which was designed by my uncle. Yeah. And there they are with my tea set, you see, yeah. Which was meant to represent teetotalers.
Yes.
Very childish joke.
Well, it's been you were living a good life. Yes?
Well, I'm living.
Well, no, but you're living. I mean, you are you continuing to take photographs?
Yes, quite a lot. Not on this trip.
None?
No.
But I would think the camera's with you at all times. No?
Yes, it is.
In your pocket?
A little tiny, small one. No, it's not in a pocket. It's just in my sort of case.
Yeah, it's there, because you never know what you might see that you would regret.
But I've never been a great believer in lots of equipment, and you lose the moment.
Right. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, it was lovely seeing you again, and thank you for being so kind to David, too.
Well, say hello to David, and I mean, he's just, his career goes
on and on. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
It's in the genes, maybe, huh?
Well, as I said earlier, it goes way back.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the point you made.
Yeah. But, you see, he started working in my workshop, making things, and then I'm a terrible jerry builder. Yeah. And don't finish things off. But his work is so beautifully finished and crafted. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Lord Snowdon, photographs by Snowdon. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
I don't really have a favourite. I just do like change.
From one
thing to the other.
One thing to the other.
One leads on to another. I mean, when you very kindly introduced me, you left out, to me, an important part of the things I was trying to do, which is pictures of social problems. Rather.
The reason for my question is just that, to get to that. So, good point. And my impression is that's more challenging for you than celebrated.
Of course.
Portraits.
Yes, absolutely. But not. I said in a book I did on London in 1958.
What is it you want to be known for? What is it that you care most about beyond family?
I'm not a stayer, really. I like change.
Yeah.
I like designing. I got enormous pleasure out of designing the aviary at the London Zoo in 1963, and that's still standing, and it's now a listed building, which is quite nice.
Yes.
I hope in a small way I've helped with designing wheelchairs for disabled people and fighting for equal rights and opportunities. Then there's photography. So I jumped from one thing to another. Yeah. And so I painted black and had the photographs were quite small and no music, not to stare, but to make people realize how lucky they are who are going round. I was told not to include them because they were too depressing, but they're not depressing. I think it would be a very lightweight exhibition if you didn't include those kind of photographs. Much more important than they.
Where do you think your instinct to do that comes from?
Hard to say, really. I think photographs should be simple, make people react, to laugh, to cry, but not to wince, I hope. Now, those photographs of social problems mustn't be those taken by a voyeurs, nor must they be taken by somebody who's trying to be a do-gooder. They're just showing, hopefully with a certain amount of love and understanding, what's going on in the world. In the exhibition, I haven't seen it yet, I'm going there tomorrow.
The one at Yale.
What?
The one at Yale.
Yes, but it was done at the National Portrait Gallery.
Right.
And there I made the end room social problem.
Lord Snowdon has been taking photographs of the rich and the celebrated and the royal for more than 50 years. A contributing photographer for Vanity Fair magazine, his subjects range from Marlene Dietrich and the mentally ill to Mikhail Baryshnikov and the British royal family. Although Snowdon maintains that photography is not art, over 180 of his works can currently be seen in a retrospective at the Yale Center for British Art. I am pleased to have him back on this program, having admired his photographs for a long, long time. Let me start with this.